This is the opening shot of Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love, and it's pretty simple, right? I mean, it doesn't grab us in the same way that this does. It's obviously less flashy, less ostentatious, and in no way is logistically complex. However, I contend that this shot is nonetheless extremely visually sophisticated. And it does an exemplary job of establishing the tone of the film. And the reason for this is that, unlike Boogie Nights, which is an ensemble piece, Punch Drunk Love is a character study. It is the story of an anxious, awkward, obsessive, and emotionally inert man called Barry who has to learn to challenge his violent anger into a positive force in order to become deserving of love. The film, from first frame to last, is only 95 minutes long, so to tell its story, it has to set up its protagonist from the get-go.
I have a love in my life. It makes me stronger than anything you can imagine.
And this is exactly what this shot does, the very first one in the film. It tells us everything we need to know about Barry in less than 90 seconds. So I want to look at how it does that, concentrating on 3 elements. The first thing to say is that the film was shot and should be presented in an anamorphic 2.35:1 aspect ratio. This is important because there is a version that has been cropped for 16:9, which I think is mostly for when the film is shown on TV. But this is not what you want. The cropping lessens the effect of the shot, as you'll see. 2.35:1 gives us a larger field of view, which, when matched with this being a wide angle and a long shot, exaggerates the perspective. This does 2 things. Firstly, it allows for the framing of the shot to be off-center. Had the framing been more centered, we would have been given the completely wrong impression of Barry. This framing suggests stable and balanced, and that is definitely what Barry is not. Furthermore, by being off-center, it leaves enough space within the frame for the leading lines to actually lead our attention toward Barry, who sits at their intersection. But in exaggerating the perspective, the edges of the frame appear larger than they actually are. As such, Barry appears smaller in scale, which tells us how to think about him. Also, notice how there is a subtle spotlight that highlights him. See how the light decreases as we move away from this focal point. More about that in a moment. There are only 4 colours in this shot: grey, blue, black and white. The purpose of the grey is clear. I mean, it's grey, it's drab, it's nondescript, and it means that the blue really stands out in contrast, which is important. The white is mostly just from the papers on the desk, and it's there for utility more than aesthetic or theme. It reflects the spotlight above, creating a sort of hot spot that helps make it the brightest area of the frame. In conjunction with this, the black of the desk directly beneath the white creates an area of high contrast. These 2 things, the brightest area of the frame, along with the high contrast, work to draw our eye to that part of the frame. But in doing this, we notice something else. We notice how the colour of Barry's suit is the same as the blue on the wall behind him, to the extent that he's hardly distinct from it. He blends into his background, and this tells us something about his meekness and passivity and how nondescript he is. So the cinematography and the production design work together hand in hand to create an image that works on a contradictory impulse. It draws our attention toward Barry, whilst at the same time it tries to hide him in plain sight. The last element to look at is the dialogue. The key here is not the content of the dialogue itself.
Yes, I'm still on hold.
Dan, what was this?
At this stage of the film, it's irrelevant.
For the airline promotion and giveaway.
In point of fact, first-time viewers would have no idea what this conversation was about.
It says in addition to, but I can't exactly understand in addition to what because there's actually nothing to add it to.
And that's fine. The film does explain it properly in due course.
So you bought 2.50 for it. That's worth 500 miles. With the coupon, it's 1,000 miles. It's a marketing mistake, but I'm taking advantage of it. If you were to spend $3,000, that would get you 1,000,000 frequent flyer miles. You would never have to pay for a ticket the rest of your life.
Rather, what is important here is the pedantry of the dialogue.
Yeah, it's hard to understand because it says in addition to, but I can't exactly understand in addition to what because there's actually nothing to add it to.
The persistence demonstrated in needing to clarify small print, and the insistence on being sure to understand
So
it.
just to clarify, I'm sorry. 10 purchases of any of your Healthy Choice products equals 500 miles, and with the coupon, the same purchases would value 1,000 miles.
That's it?
Well, do you realize that the monetary value of this promotion and the prize is potentially worth more than the purchase?
Most people are not concerned by such small details, at least not willingly, and it is not what we expect from our fictional characters either. So we have to wonder about the sort of person who would get so hung up on such details.
Could I call you back? Could I ask you your extension or your name, possibly?
Barry exhibits so many characteristics that are not endearing. He's pedantic, he's obsessive, he's awkward, and he's intense.
Stop fucking treating me this way! Give me your fucking number! I'll fucking kill you!
And the film challenges us to engage with him nonetheless, and it succeeds in getting us to do so. But what is fascinating is how these characteristics are apparent to us from the very beginning of the film. The film doesn't spend time letting us get to know Barry, it throws us and him headlong into his story almost immediately. But we already have such a clear impression of him as a person before this happens at the 2.5 minute mark, and it's because it's all communicated to us from the very beginning in this wonderfully rich but deceptively simple opening shot.
And what was this?
And all at once I knew at once, I knew he needed me.